It's really changed.
Because I'm the chief of police here.
Are members of the Eli Whitney Trains.
But had an honest mob at my back.
For YTV.
For YTV.
For YTV.
For YTV.
This is your Yale Week.
Hello and welcome to your Yale Week. I'm Nicole Daly and here are this week's top stories. Last Friday, sophomore Peter Huang was elected Yale College Council president after leading the polls with nearly 42% of the vote. Huang's platform proposed several macro-level initiatives, such as eliminating the student income contribution, promoting an increase in resources for ethnic studies, and increasing faculty diversity, as well as smaller-scale initiatives involving supporting student groups. In uncontested races, sophomore Lauren Sapienza was elected events director, and junior Zach Mern was elected finance director. On Wednesday, after receiving nearly 60% of the vote in a runoff election against sophomore Kevin Sullivan, sophomore Christopher Bowman was elected vice president. In light of a report released last month that revealed the lack of ethnic and political diversity among Yale Law School professors, the law school community has initiated discussion about why that gap exists and how to address it. According to the report, which was released in March, although the law school's faculty diversity is comparable to that of peer institutions, students still have concerns about racial, gender, and political diversity among professors. However, law school administrators have emphasized they have already taken several steps to improve faculty diversity in the coming academic year. And finally, our top story. 3 Yale Law School students are representing 2 former Connecticut residents who are trying to re-enter the country after having been deported to Italy. On April 12th, with the help of the law students, one of the deportees appealed the decision disallowing his re-entry. For more on this story, we'll sit down with reporters James Post and Amy Cheng later in the show. But first, for a brief look at this weekend, Claire Liu.
Thanks, Nicole. A variety of sports competitions will take place this weekend. Now, the number 4 team in the nation, the men's lacrosse team, will play Albany at 12 p.m. on Saturday. The team will try to rebound after their first loss of the season to Brown last weekend. Women's lacrosse will face off against Penn at 3 p.m. on Saturday. In their final games of the season, the women's tennis team will play Brown at 12 p.m. on Saturday, and the men's tennis team will travel to Providence to also play Brown at 1 p.m. on Saturday. Finally, on Saturday, the women's crew team will compete against Radcliffe, the Harvard women's team, and the men's heavyweight crew team will race Cornell and Princeton in the Carnegie Cup. The races will take place at Gilder Boathouse, the Yale crew facility in Derby, Connecticut. A lot of great cultural events and performances will also occur this weekend. On Friday, Anderson Cooper, class of '89, will accept the 2016 Yale Undergraduates Lifetime Achievement Award in Battelle Chapel at 1:30 p.m. As part of the ceremony, he will speak about his undergraduate experience and respond to questions from students. In addition, the 4th annual Jazz Festival at Yale, a student-organized celebration of jazz, will take place from April 22nd to the 24th. The festival will feature performances, talks, and masterclasses to celebrate this music genre. This weekend also marks the end of the 2016 Yale Student Film Festival. The culminating event of the festival will be a screening of the 5 narrative short films from the class of 2016's Film and Media Studies majors, followed by a Q&A with the directors, starting at 4 p.m. on Saturday. And be sure to pick up your copy of Weekend. This week's cover story delves into the international Chinese community at Yale, taking a closer look at the group's admissions to and assimilation. Back to you, Nicole.
Thanks, Claire. We're joined now by reporters James Post and Amy Cheng, who are reporting on an interesting story in which 2 Italian immigrants who came here in the 60s never obtained U.S. citizenship, and several years ago they were deported for nonviolent crimes and are actually currently being defended by Yale Law School students. So who are these 2 deported Connecticut residents and why were they deported?
These 2 separate Connecticut residents are called Arno Gianmarco and Paula Millardo. They both moved to the United States in the 1960s. They've lived here for the past 50 years. Currently, they have grandchildren of their own. Millardo was married to a veteran, and Gianmarco was a veteran himself. However, unfortunately, Millardo was deported in 2011 on a felony theft charge, and Gianmarco was deported in 2012 on a drug possession and misdemeanor theft charge.
And how did Gianmarco and Millardo begin to try to return to the U.S.?
Yeah, well, actually, these 2 state congressmen, Connecticut Senator Eric Coleman and Connecticut Representative William Tong, heard their stories and decided that this was unjust, that their deportation was unjust. So they decided to hold a public hearing on immigration policy in Connecticut, and they issued subpoenas to bring Gianmarco and Millardo back to Connecticut to testify at this public hearing. Unfortunately, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency blocked the subpoenas, and so Gianmarco and Millardo both issued petitions to be able to come back to the U.S. to testify.
So ICE explained their decision in a press release by stating that the agency believes individuals with serious criminal convictions are among the agency's highest enforcement priorities. They also explained that the decision was very deliberate given Gianmarco's veteran status. So as mentioned before, Gianmarco Millardo filed for a co-petition at the District Court for the District of Connecticut on March 16th. And on March 28th, Judge Vanessa Bryant heard arguments from both sides, and on April 1st, she decided to side with the federal government.
Okay. And what do you guys see happening next with this case?
Yeah, well, actually, Gianmarco has already submitted a notice of appeal to Judge Bryant's decision with the support of Yale Law School students from the Jerome and Frank Legal Services Organization, which is a legal aid group affiliated with Yale Law School. Millardo actually decided not to pursue an appeal to Judge Bryant's decision for reasons not disclosed by her legal team. But Gianmarco and his team will submit an addendum by April 26th. And then by the end of May, they'll submit a brief that fully lays out their argument against Judge Bryant's decision.
Okay, well, thank you guys both for that insight. We'll definitely be following developments in this story. And thank you for watching. And from everyone at YTV, have a great weekend.
The Yale Endowment. You hear about it often, but do you know how it actually works, where the money comes from, or how it's invested or spent? Let's start at the beginning of the money flow. Donors give money to the Yale Endowment, which is then managed by the Yale Investments Office, led by Chief Investment Officer David Swenson and Senior